Hey guys, so today I want to talk about a stock that I've been watching over the last few days, and I think this stock is going to have a pretty big move here in the next few days and maybe even coming into next week. And I know that a lot of people have been actually asking me about this stock. What are my thoughts now that they are sitting at around $24? And how do I think they've been holding up after their earnings, which was the last time that I talked about them? And like I said during the earnings, I was recommending it as a very strong buy. Now, during the earnings, they were worth around $19, $18 to $19, and they had a huge run up coming into the earnings from 339 all the way to 18. And like I explained in my other video, this is a pretty monster run up, almost 400% for a company that has historically been selling off. And one of the main things that I tried to explain in that video was that we were going to test a lot of historical levels while this stock is coming back up before we can really head all the way to the top at 80. And like I explained, this is one of the best stocks to trade and one of the easiest trades that you will ever see because of the fact that all the key levels are already mapped out for you. Now, when there's new stocks on the market and when a stock is reaching all-time highs, it's almost virtually impossible to know when a stock will reach its top or when a stock will reach its support at the bottom. But when a stock is already developed and has been in the market for so many years, like Bed Bath & Beyond, we've seen their best and worst times, and you can honestly know what the stock is going to be doing in the future by predicting the past. So like I explained in that other video, it was going to be critical for us to break this $19 support, and that's the support that I would be watching in the short term to know whether the stock was going to continue upwards or see a lot more selling. And that's exactly what happened after the earnings. You can see that we actually sold off all the way to around 1850, but really found support quickly. And shortly after that started on a second run. And since then, the stock has been running for a pretty good amount of time. But now we're really in a period of consolidation here over the last few days. And this is why I really want to say that I think that the stock is going to be having a big move. Now, I want to explain why it's hard for me to tell whether this move will be in the upwards or downwards direction. But I still want to show you my thoughts on the stock, my thoughts on this specific move, and why I think it's going to be ripping in one direction over the next few days here. Now, if you've been following the stock market, it's actually hard to find stocks these days that still have good volume and good volatility because the market seems to be very paused. Now, the S&P, you can see it over here on the right hand of the screen, the SPY, they literally closed within 1% of the opening price, and this is just absolutely ridiculous. It's not what we're used to seeing as traders, and especially not what the market has been used to seeing over the last few weeks. So it's going to be hard to find opportunities that are continuously moving and seeing that a lot of volatility, which is what we really want as option traders. So that's why I really want to show you this position, because as you can see, they've been having some pretty good run-ups and run-downs over the last few days. Now, the main thing that I'm watching on this stock is these two key levels that they've been trying to establish over the last few days. Now, that's going to be a support around 2408 and a resistance around 2560 and 2570. So the reason why I'm watching these two levels is because you can tell that the stock has been trading sideways, and they've been trading sideways pretty heavily between these two levels. But over the last few days, they've actually been developing into a small wedge here. And what it means when a stock develops into a wedge is that it is like a ball bouncing on a table. So at first, the bounces are very big, big, big. But as the ball starts losing momentum, they really start getting into the smaller and smaller bounce until something big happens at the end. And that's what you can really expect from these wedges. I've talked about wedges on Tesla, NIO, Workhorse, and they've all actually gone crazy a few days after I talked about them. And that's why I really want to show you this opportunity before the breakout so you guys can take advantage and so you guys can really profit as traders. So the main reason why I don't know which direction this is going to break in is because I actually thought this was going to break in the upwards direction. Now, these wedges tend to follow the pattern that led into them, and you can see that it's very clearly a buying setup where there's a lot of buying before the wedge. But now that we're seeing the end of the wedge here, you can tell that today we had a very weak day and actually held below the wedge, and that's what's really concerning me here. I did have some calls on this company as I was expecting them to at least test the top of the wedge one more time. But now you can see that we are not even able to break the 50 EMA and come back into an upwards direction, where in the past it was very easy for the stock to really rip up above the EMA and show us this upwards direction. And now we are just seeing a lot of resistance here around this 2408. So I really think the next big move could even happen tomorrow if the stock market opens up with a lot of selling. And the main reason is because they haven't been able to, over the last day or so, to break back into the wedge. And that's usually a sign that the move is about to happen. And guys, right now it seems like they're going to break towards the downside. Like I said, these wedges tend to follow the previous pattern, and that was a buying setup. So I really was hoping that this was going to break to the upside. Like I said, I was holding calls and I was hoping to see them repeat the top of this triangle and then potentially break out to this first level, then second level, etc., etc. But it looks like we're not really getting that type of volatility or that momentum that I was really hoping for, even though you can see the volume has ramped up like crazy over the last few hours on the stock. So I really think this stock has a lot more movement left. From the volume, you can see that they are still very active. So that's why I really love this stock. I've added them into my daily watch list, which is over here on the right. And I think that they're going to be making a big move over the next few days, like I explained in the video, because of this wedge pattern, because of the fact that they've been consolidating for so long. I think we're in a primed position for this company to move. Like I explained, this company has been on a very, very big uptrend over the last few days. And when a company pauses like this, it's very common to see them pause and then repeat in the direction of the previous trend. And that is a lot of buying. So that's why I was hoping the trend was going to break to the upside so we could continue seeing more profits and more gains on Bed Bath & Beyond, because they've actually been giving us so much this last weeks and last months with the market so paused. But now it looks like they might break to the downside. So key levels that I'm watching, if they do break to the downside, watch for them to test on the $22 range. That's where their last resistance was here, but they actually broke this resistance, came up. And as you may know, when a stock breaks resistances, they come back and test them as support. So this may be what's happening now. You can see that it's what happened a few weeks ago, where the stock broke up above this $24 resistance and is now coming back to test. So that's why I still think there's a chance that the stock could test this resistance and then head to the upside. But unfortunately, it's not very clear right now what the stock might do, and especially with the market pressure being in the downwards direction. There's so much selling pressure right now on the SPY and on the market in general, and that's going to make it tough for a lot of these moves to really break up, especially moves that are looking like they could break to the upside are going to be having trouble finding that momentum and that volatility, that volume that is really necessary to come out of a wedge like this and test the highs of the wedge. So really, I want to see what happens over the next few days. If you are not an experienced trader, what I would recommend is simply waiting till the wedge breaks out in either the upwards or the downwards direction, gives a clear sign of what to do, and simply just trade the follow through, just trade wherever the trend is headed. And like I said, the 50 EMA is a great indication of whether a stock is in an upwards or downwards direction. So that's what I'll be watching to give me some direction in the next few days. And if you are a trader that's potentially trying to learn how to work these breakouts, I would watch the 50 EMA for some confirmation that we are headed in a downwards direction. And once you do see the break either in the upside or downwards direction, don't be afraid to follow the trend. Don't try to catch where the stock is going to reverse and say, okay, they're going to go down $1 and I'm going to catch the... Don't do all of that. Just simply trade with the trend and you'll be a lot more successful than if you do try to catch tops and bottoms. So that's my tip for you guys this week. I see a lot of consolidation on this stock, but I also see a lot of opportunity coming in the next few days. It's going to be very key to snipe out these plays that potentially have volume left in a market where there's just not a lot moving, and a lot of the stocks that we've been relying on, like Apple, like Boeing, like Microsoft, etc., they're just not moving anymore, and they're opening and closing within 1% of the day. You can see that's exactly what happened with Microsoft. Even though we had an extremely strong day, they only closed within 2% of the open, and Apple as well. I don't have them on this list, but they also closed within 1%. So these are just terrible signs for market growth and market volatility in the short run. So we just have to see what happens here, but you have to really be able to take advantage of these plays that are showing themselves over the last few days, like Bed Bath & Beyond, and I think that they're going to be a great moneymaker over the next week. So just stay in touch with the channel if you want to stay updated on that. As always, the Discord is down in the description if you want to know when I'm actually buying in or selling this trade. Just make sure you're in the Discord down in the description. It's free to join, free signals and plays almost every single day. So just check that out if you're interested. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys.